Question: what would you say is the most iconic sports car of all time? You get 3 seconds to answer, but the only correct answer is the Porsche 911, which conveniently we have today on shoot. Welcome back to SANTEFIRE Motoring. My name is Bongani, and today we're going to take a deep dive into why the 911 has been the icon of cool for the last 60 years. Let's get into it. What I find interesting about the 911, besides its performance, besides its styling, is the fact that over the last 60 years, it's been Porsche's best-selling model, and it's a dedicated sports car. You would think that a brand's best-selling model would be something a bit more sensible, like an SUV or a hatchback, but Porsche don't make those. And I think even though this is a sports car, the reason why it's been so great in its tenure is because it appeals to the purists. They haven't really changed the recipe of what makes a 911 truly a 911. They've just iteratively developed on what I would consider perfection, and the proof is in the pudding. These go for 2.6 million rand, brand new, before options, and they're selling like hotcakes. Quite a bit has changed, particularly from an aesthetic point of view, and I'd like us to take a look at it. The first thing you'll notice is that these headlights over here are now integrated with the turn signals. Previously, there used to be a light strip over here in the front bumper, and that's just now been cleaned up to create a bit more air for your intercoolers. The front apron has been redesigned ever so slightly, but what I really appreciate is this front lip over here. I think it completes the front end of this car. I wonder if you can get it in carbon fiber. Considering the fact that this is a Porsche, I'm sure they'll let you do anything you would like. Moving over to the side, one thing you'll really appreciate is the fact that we have a staggered wheel setup. 20 inches in the front, 21 inches in the rear, and I think it just gives this car a very nice look. If you look over the front fenders over here, this is probably my favorite piece of 911 history iteratively carried over into this car. I call it the valley of the headlights, where the front end of this thing sort of peaks and then it drops over the bonnet and then it peaks again over the other headlight. Something we've seen from a long time ago. I think the 964 did that very, very well. Come over to the rear end of this thing. There's something really cool I want to show you. Now, if you remember the Porsche Cayenne that we had on test not too long ago, it had this really lovely light bar running across the entirety of the boot. Nothing has changed in this 911. This has actually become a Porsche signature detail, if you will. You'll notice that it's an exposed light bar, meaning you can actually get access to the Porsche script, which is raised. But one really cool party piece this has is that it has a mechanical spoiler, which you can raise whenever you would like. And if I snap a button, it actually can go up or down. Now, it automatically goes up once you get past a certain speed, or if you're in Sports Plus mode. And I mean, it gives you some insights into how well this thing has been designed. You really can't see any of the intricacies. And the same can be said if you were to open up this engine cover over here. You actually get some fans and access to pouring your oil and water, but nothing besides that. If you move slightly lower over here, you'll notice that we have oval tailpipes, and that's because this car has been fitted with Porsche's optional sports exhaust system, which in my honest opinion is a must-tick option. There's this misconception that Porsches don't sound good, and listen, I think it's just maybe because the Boxer 6 in this engine doesn't come across well on camera. It actually sounds absolutely incredible. It revs very lovely. You get really good induction noises, turbo noises too, and some crackles and pops when you let off the accelerator at high revs. It's the absolute business. Let's get into the interior of the car so you can have a look at that real quick, and then we'll go for a drive. Now, the interior of the 911 is quite impressive, but it starts leaving an impression on you before you get into the car. You see, one thing that this car can do, which is quite cool, is that it has flush door handles when the doors are locked. And as soon as you unlock them, they pop out, giving you some space so you can reach underneath and then open the door. Where once you sit inside the interior, you will be met by some screenery, because this is the digital age that we're living in. But what Porsche have done is they haven't shoved it down your throat. It's sort of there, but it's out of the way. It's an interesting combination of things. And if you look at this car and you compare it to the Porsche Cayenne that we had on test not too long ago, you'll see that the similarities are almost 99.9%. It's pretty much the same interior. And when I spoke to the lovely Porsche representatives at Porsche South Africa, they told me that they did this because, well, if you're going to buy a Porsche, there's a good chance you're going to buy more than one. So ideally, they want to give you the same experience regardless of whichever model you're in. So you're not faffing around looking for which button to press to do something you would easily do in your other car. I've got a multifunction infotainment display with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay CarPlay. I've got some dedicated buttons over here for my suspension, traction control, hazards, exhaust, and a configurable button to do whatever I would like. Very simple climate control vents that I can maneuver. One thing I really appreciate is they've given us a dedicated climate control section and they haven't buried it inside the screen. This is how I control my temperature. This is how I control my fan speed. And over here, I've got my front and rear windshield warming. My volume controls are over here. And this is the gear selector. It's quite tiny. In the Cayenne, if you remember correctly, they actually had placed it over here right behind the indicator stalk. I've got a dedicated park button, M for manual, so that I can use the paddle shifters, which are made of metal and they make this nice clicky sound whenever I push them. I've got 911 sort of embossed over here, and then this is how I control my sunroof. I've got heated seats over here, passenger and driver side, and a dedicated cup holder just before that. But you're thinking, one cup holder? No, here's the thing, there are actually two of them. If I push this, you get a hidden cup holder that pops out for the passenger to use. And then over here, this is nice and flat, and I think this is sort of like an aluminium-esque kind of thing, and the dashboard is nice and low, giving me really good visibility, which is something you should appreciate in a car that sits this low. At the center of the dashboard, I've got a ticking clock, and that's because this car has been fitted with Porsche's Sports Chrono package, which now drops the 0 to 100 time to 3.9 seconds. I've got a glove compartment, which is arguably quite small, but I've got wireless fast charging over here, 2 Type-C chargers, and space to put my keys. And that's pretty much it. You get the Porsche crest embossed on the headrest over there with these comfortable Porsche sports seats. Now, you'll know in the GT cars you can get buckets and their body form to match whatever you're shaped like. It can get really, really cool. This car has a Bose sound system. This is not the bass sound system. This is one level above, but above that you get the Burmester sound system, which sounds absolutely ridiculous. But as I'm sitting here, I'm just like, I really appreciate how comfortable this car is. I've got a drive mode selector button over here, which makes it easy for me to switch between normal, wet, sport, and sports plus. Some multifunction controls on my steering wheel over here, and then I've got a digital cluster which I can maneuver around to pick whatever it is I'd like to display. You can even get a full view of your maps. And then because of lightweight savings, the steering column rack is manually adjustable. I've got adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, and all the nice goodies that you'd appreciate in a sports car you can daily drive. Now, this is going to be a bit awkward. I'm the furthest thing from being a contortionist. In fact, when I sneeze, my back hurts. But I'm going to try getting into the back of this Porsche 911. Feels like they did this on purpose. Like there was a sadistic twist on things when they designed it. Now, I'm not the tallest person, and it's quite clear that this is a bit constrained. I do not have any headroom at all. This is the first time I've struggled to fit in a car. And if I move this seat back, all the way back, I can somewhat fit. Now, the person in front of me is not going to be able to fit at all, but it's not really the kind of thing you can complain about when you're in a 911. I mean, if you have some kids or friends you don't like, and if the kids are under the age of 3, they'll fit back there, but not really the kind of car you'll be using to carry passengers, which is not necessarily the kind of thing you can complain about, because now it just means I can't give you a lift and I don't have to give you a reason why. 911. So we're about to go on a trip in the 911, but before we do that, I want to show you this. One of my absolute favorite things about Porsches at the moment has to be the keys. It's in the shape of a car. I'm assuming this is either 911 or Panamera, considering the fact that you have these wide rear wheel arches, which is a representation of what you see in real life. As I look out the rear view mirror over here, it's pretty much 30% of what I can see. I really love it. It's wide. It's got this nice little stance to it. But I do want you to hear the startup from the interior. Listen to this. It does bark into life, doesn't it? It comes into a life of its own. Let's get out of here. Now, it is tempting to put this car in Sports Plus and then just send it down the road and it'll give us all the smiles and all the enjoyments and that sort of stuff. But I think that would be half the experience, and it would be an injustice to this Porsche 911, because I think for most of your daily driving, you're going to be a normal, probably stuck in traffic, doing the boring, mundane stuff, which is something the Porsche 911 does very well, actually. At first, I was a bit intimidated by this car. For starters, it's got a 2.6 million Rand base price. With options, this 911 Carrera has a sticker price of around 2.8 million Rand. So it's not necessarily a cheap car. And I mean, it is a dedicated sports car. So approaching this low, wide, nearly 3 million Rand Porsche can feel like, oh geez, all it does is the rah-rah. But in fact, it does everything and then some. So I've been driving around in this 911 from going to work and back, to the gym, back, coming to the shoot, in this industrial area, some highway mileage. And I can honestly, safely say that without a shadow of doubt, this 911 drives like a Golf. It drives like an A3. It drives nearly as good as the Porsche Cayenne that I had on test not too long ago. I say nearly because I mean that's an SUV and it handles the bumps a whole lot better. But something that people don't know about this car is how easy it is to navigate on the South African roads. It's very, very good. And not only is it good at that, I mean at the end of the day it is a Porsche, so if you were to put it in Sports Plus, you can hear the revs, they start coming up a bit here. And I'm going to take this turn and just listen. Just listen. So good, so good. It produces 290 kilowatts, 450 Newton meters in torque, but you should know that these are Porsche numbers, right? It doesn't necessarily give you a full idea of what the performance actually looks like. For context, the BMW M2 that we drove on this channel not too long ago has more power than this. This one's quicker. It does 0 to 100 in 3.9 seconds, and that's because of the sports chrono package. And I think it just gives you a very complete driving experience. The refinement of it all, I think that's where Porsche got this very, very right. I mean, they've had 60 years to develop the 911, and you can tell because everything just works exactly the way it should. One thing I really love is how they've implemented the technology in this car. It's not in the way, it's not in your face. It sort of helps you, nudges you along, but it'll let you do whatever you want for the most part, and that translates to the infotainment screen as well. You know, you get all the nice features that you would like to get, but essentially it's not in the way. It's like subtle, you know, it's there to assist you, but it's not the center of attention. And it concerns me that they've taken a completely different approach in the new Cayenne with its curved screen. Maybe that's what people want now. I'm not entirely sure. I can't speak to that, but from where I'm sitting at the current moment, it's great. I've got good visibility throughout, which is something you'd really appreciate considering the fact that this car is only 1.3 meters tall and I'm slightly lower considering there's some headroom between me and the roof. So being able to see out of this car, out of the rear, out of the sides, out of the front, that's something you'll appreciate. Combine that with the fact that it drives very well, you could very easily daily drive a Porsche 911. You heard that on SANTEFIRE Motoring, although I'm not the first to say it. And that's the cool thing about 911. It's been around so long that the journalists that were reviewing 911 when I was a kid said the exact same things that I'm telling you now. That speaks to something. That speaks to having a recipe that works. That speaks to Porsche's mindset when it comes to their longevity. And it just speaks to how well they've executed the 911, not only as a brand, but a badge, but a car as well. For the purists that have a little bit more money, to be quite honest with you. And they have trims like the 911 Carrera T, which is offered in a manual only option to ensure that those who really love the driving experience are still catered for. I love this car. I really do love this car, and I'm struggling to find faults. If I were to find one, I'd say maybe it's the quality of the rear view camera. It's not that good. Doesn't have the biggest fuel tank, but then again, it's a sports car. Can you really complain about that? Doesn't have the biggest back seats. It's a sports car. Can you really complain about that? At the end of the day, they've gotten so many things right that the few things that they didn't manage to execute 100% are things you can live with. The Porsche 911 is testament to the fact that if you get something right the first time, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. Just iteratively make it a bit more efficient. And that's what they've done with 992.2. It's an incredible, incredible car, and I can't wait to experience the rest of the Porsche lineup. Overall, I'm very grateful to the team over at Porsche South Africa for giving me the privilege of getting behind the wheel of this thing. It's nearly 3 million Rand, and you trusted me? Geez, I'm so grateful. Thank you for tuning in, and if you have any questions, like what the fuel consumption is, 10 liters per 100 kilometers, feel free to ask them in the comment section. My name is Bongani. This 911 has a panoramic sunroof, which I appreciate very much. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers.